Hello, girls. Today I'm back with a poem titled The Ball Poem, and it's written by John Berryman. Well, Berryman was born on October 25th, 1914, and he was an American poet and scholar born in McAlester, Oklahoma. He was a major figure in American poetry in the second half of the 20th century. And he's won notable awards like the National Book Award, Pulitzer Prize for Poetry, and Bollingen Prize. His best known work is the Dream Songs, and Berryman is considered a key figure in the confessional school of poetry. He died on January 7th, 1972 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA. The poet has described the reality of life which everyone has to face one day. And here you'll get to see a soulful picture of a little boy growing up and learning to deal with the loss of a thing he holds dear. The poet has tried to describe what every human being has to face one day. He has touched the topic on how to stand up against the miseries and sorrows of life. Girls, this is a free verse poem. By free verse, what I mean is it is a literary device that can be defined as poetry and that which is free from limitations of rhythm and rhyme. So such poems are without rhyme schemes and yet they provide artistic expressions. There is no pattern until the poet creates one, and you are free to decide where to break a poem into stanzas. You may arrange a poem in stanzas of 2 or more lines. So girls, let us first look at the first 4 lines of the poem, whereby the poet is asking as to what the boy who has lost his ball going to do now. The poet has repeated the word what in the second line so as to stress on the fact that the little boy is sad. He says that the ball went down happily into the water. The poet feels that it is useless to console the boy because the boy is saddened by the loss of his ball, and that by consoling it will further aggravate the situation and will affect the boy deeper and make him more sad. The poet looks at the boy because it seems like all his childhood memories that he had with that ball has fallen into the river and is being carried away with it. The next 4 lines, that is line 9 to 12, the poet further says that he would not interrupt in the boy's sadness and would rather let the boy be just the way he is, and that also if someone gives him a new ball that costs a dime, here dime means 10 cents. So even if somebody would buy him a new ball, it would be worthless to the little boy because the ball that has fallen in the water had many memories which a new ball will not be able to give him back. The poet further says that this loss of ball was the first possession of his, and the loss has affected him badly. Now the poet is trying to make the little boy realize that, like this ball which has been lost by him, he will lose many things in life, things, relation, etc., and that this is a part of life and that he has to get over it. Meaning, one has to move on in life, no matter what the situation. The poet is also trying to tell us that throughout our life we will be forced to do things that we don't want to do, or that we will lose or have to give up on things that you love. But despite this, we have to learn to stand up and to be strong and get on with our life, no matter how much it hurts inside, because that is the only way you will survive. You will have to learn to accept and let go and not cling on to something that you can never have. Now let us take the last 6 lines of the poem into consideration. And here the poet tells the boy that in future too he will have such loss, and that no one will be able to buy him a new one. He has to realize that money and possessions aren't the most important things in life. The poet then says that this loss has taught him a big lesson on what it is to lose and still survive. In the last lines, we visualize how the spirit of this little boy, like the ball, is sinking into the dark waters of the harbor. And as the ball drifts further away, the boy learns to grow up, and that part of him that is linked to that ball grows up as well, until it is no longer a little boy. You can also say that the loss of the ball is symbolic to loss of his innocence and gaining of knowledge of survival through loss. So girls, now that we are done with the poem, let us come to the literary devices that have been used here by the poet. So the first literary device that we are going to discuss about will be anaphora. Now, what is an anaphora? So, anaphora means a word or a phrase that has been repeated in 2 or 3 lines at the beginning. Again, anaphora is a word or a phrase that has been repeated in 2 or 3 lines at the beginning. So, let us come back to the poem. Now, if you look here, the words what, merrily, merrily. The word what has been repeated in 2nd line and it's in the beginning of the sentence. Likewise, the word merrily has been repeated in the 4th line and again it's in the beginning. So this is anaphora for you. The words what and merrily are anaphora for you. Now, let us go to imagery. Now, what is imagery again? When the poet creates a similar snapshot in the reader's mind, and here it does not apply only to vision images but also to any of our senses. So by imagery, now for example, let's come here. Imagery, if you look at it, if you look at the 3rd line, merrily bouncing down the street. So as I'm reading this, I can actually visualize a picture in my mind. And that picture is of a ball that is going down. Merrily means happily. So that's bouncing down happily. Okay, it's bouncing down the street. So I can actually visualize it. So that is imagery for you. So merrily bouncing down the street, that whole phrase, merrily bouncing down the street, is imagery for you. Now let us come to repetition. Now what is repetition? Repetition is a figure of speech where a phrase, a word, or a full sentence is repeated. Repetition is a figure of speech where a word, a phrase, or a full sentence is repeated. Now if you see lines number 11 and 14, lines number 11 and 14, you'll see the word lines number 11 and 14, you'll see, okay, that's lines number 13, you'll see the word balls. Okay, lines number 13. Balls will be lost anyways. People will take balls will be lost anyways. So these two words, it has been repeated. Okay, so that is repetition for you. Then we come to assonance. Now what is assonance? Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. Now if you look at the first two lines, okay, first two lines, what you'll get to see is, what is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do now? So if you look at words like boy, now, who, lost. So here the vowel sound O has been repeated. The vowel sound O. See, boy, now, O, 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 O. Boy, now, who, lost, has been repeated. So that is assonance for you. So assonance is not just in line number 1, but you also get to see that in line number 14. Now line number 15, He's learning well behind his desperate eyes. So the vowel sound E has been repeated here. He is. E, learning. He is learning well. E, behind. E, desperate eyes. E. So here the letter E has been repeated. Okay, so the letter E is a vowel. So again, let me tell you, assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. Okay, so the vowel sound E has been repeated here in line number 15. He, E, 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 E. So that is assonance for you. So again, assonance we get to see in the first two lines. The first line, boy, the sound where the sound O has been repeated. Boy, O, 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 O. Boy, now, who, lost. Okay, so that is the first assonance for you. And the second assonance for you is E, the sound E. Learning, E, he, E, learning, well, E, behind, E, desperate, E, and eyes, E. So that is assonance for you. Then we come to something called a metaphor. Now what is a metaphor? Metaphor means comparing two things or ideas without using the word like or as. So when you compare two different things or ideas, and that too without using the word like or as, we call it a metaphor. Now if you go to line number 8, all his young days into the harbor were. So now here the poet has compared the little boy's childhood days with the ball. So here the young days has been compared to the ball. So that is a metaphor. And now the last literary device that we will discuss about is called alliteration. Now what is alliteration? Alliteration is the repetition of the same sound in a group of words. I've given you an example of one of my favorite singer, Tupac Shakur. So in his song called Dear Mama, there is a lyric which goes this way: when things went wrong, we would blame Mama. So the word W has been repeated, the sound. When were, went were, wrong were, viewed were. So likewise, let's come to the poem. And in line 14, the letter B has been repeated here. Okay, so here it says, line 14, it says, line 14, and no one buys a ball back. So the word, or sorry, the letter or the sound B has been repeated here. Buys B, ball B, back B. So that is the literary device that we had to discuss, and it's done. I will be posting, or rather I will be sending you some questions and answers in our WhatsApp group, girls. And if there is any confusion, please feel free to call me or to message me, and I'll be there to respond to your queries. But please watch the video, and like you all know, I'm not very tech savvy, but nevertheless I've tried my best to compile whatever I could or whatever I can, with the hope that you will also take the trouble of watching the video, and also take the trouble of going through your textbooks and inquiring about your confusions. Thank you and have a safe day.